Hello and welcome to the Chatterbox Letters podcast. I am going to be reading my very large, like, chatter letter to my listeners. This book, aka Chatter Letter, is called Holes. I hope you will enjoy as I read Holes in audio format. I will be reading chapter by chapter, so it seems interesting as you are curious to know the whole story at its entirety. Introducing Holes by Louis Sachar. I'll be reading chapter 18 of Holes. All right. The next morning, Mr. Sir marched the boys to another section of the lake, and each boy dug his own hole, 5 feet deep and 5 feet wide. Stanley was glad to be away from the big hole, as at least now he knew you, at least now he knew just how much he had to dig for the day. And it was a relief not to have other shovels swinging past his face or the warden hanging around. He dug his shovel into the dirt, then slowly turned to dump it in a pile. He had to make his turn smooth and slow. If he jerked too much quickly, he felt a throbbing pain just above his neck where a zigzag shovel had hit him. That part of his head between the neck and ear was considerably swollen. There was no mirrors in There was no mirrors in the camp, but he imagined he listened or looked like he had a hard-boiled egg sticking out of him. Ew. The remainder of his body but hardly hurt at all. The muscles had strengthened, and his hands were tough and calloused. He was still the slowest digger, but not all that much slower than Magnet. Less than 30 minutes after Magnet returned to the camp, Stanley spat into his hole. After his shower, he put on his dirty clothes in his crate and got out his box of stationery. He stayed in the tent to write the letter so Squid and the other boys would make fun of him for writing to his mother. Here it goes. Dear Mom and Dad, camp is hard but challenging. We've been running also a whole lot of courses and have to swim long distance on the lake. Tomorrow we learn. Oh boy, that was kind of hard reading that letter, but I did it. He stepped writing as Zero walked into the tent, then turned to his letter. He didn't care what Zero thought. Zero was nobody. To the to rock climb. I know the sounds scary, but don't worry. Zero was standing beside him, watching him write his letter. Stanley turned and felt his neck throb. I don't like it when you read over my shoulder. Okay? Zero said nothing. I'll be careful. It's out, excuse me. It's out all fun and games here. But I think I'm getting a lot of it out. It builds character, the boys. I don't know, said Zero. What? Next page. Can you teach me? Stanley didn't know what he was talking about. Teach you what? To rock climb? Zero stared at him with penetrating eyes. What? Said Stanley. He was hot, tired, and sore. I want to learn to read and write, said Zero. Stanley let out a short laugh. He wasn't laughing at Zero, but he was surprised. All this time he had thought Zero was reading over his shoulder. Sorry, he said. I don't know how much to teach. After digging all day, he didn't have the strength to teach Zero to read and write. He needed to save his energy for the people who he counted. You don't have to teach me to write, said Zero. Just to read. Want I don't have anybody to write to, said. Sorry, said Stanley again. He muscles he muscles the hand weren't the only parts of his body that he toughened over the past several weeks. His heart had hardened as well. He finished his letter. He barely had enough moisture in his mouth to seal it and stamp the envelope. It seemed that no matter how much water he drank, he was always thirsty. Well, that chapter, it was a good chapter. Have to say, I have to say right now, digging smaller holes, 5 foot wide, 5 foot in height. They're back to their old climbing ways, old digging ways, digging, those kind of holes instead of the 6 foot, 6 foot wide, and 6 foot tall. The warden and wheelbarrows was included. And the boys had partners so they can, dig some and then other partner dig some. I believe the warden's way was easier for these boys. But they back to their old way, Mr. Sir. And I'm just this chapter was okay. I'm gonna have to say it was okay. Not a lot to it. Everyone, I would like for you to like, share, subscribe to my podcast. Hit that notification button to know when I go live. Ring that bell for updates on my podcast. And please, if you write a chatter letter to me, make sure it's clean, the words are clear and discreet. If you have a chatter letter and to broadcast on my podcast, send it to the Chatterbox Letters Podcast, Post Office Box 5556, Lakeland, Florida 33807. You can write whatever you want in your chatter letters as long as it's clean, your words are clear and discreet. Please do not hesitate to write a chatter letter to me. Please, please, please procrastinate and send me your chatter letters.